Congressman Mike Waltz from Florida's 6th Congressional District is joining us now on the broadcast. He authored the censure resolution against Representative Omar. Congressman, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good to be with you guys.
Let me ask you first, you saw your colleague has come out again. She chose to do this interview with Jake Tapper on CNN to double down on her statements, saying she doesn't regret those statements, and taking a shot at her fellow Democrats who happen to be Jewish members of Congress, saying they don't understand injustice and they haven't been in the fight for injustice. Your thoughts on her coming out yet again and doubling down on these statements?
Well, number one, to say that Jewish members of Congress, that the Jewish people don't understand injustice is just beyond the pale. I think number one. Number two, I've served as a Green Beret. I've fought all over the world. I have seen women at the hands of the Taliban abused, acid thrown on their faces, girls' schools burnt down, one even machine gunned with the girls in them. So to put the Taliban on the same level with Israel, with the United States, is jaw-droppingly offensive. It's ridiculous. And I hope Pelosi will put her money where her mouth is. And we passed a censure resolution in 2019. The Democrats stood up then. I hope to see another one on the floor from the speaker. But like I said, talk's cheap. We'll see if she walks the walk.
It's interesting, Congressman. In the resolution, it says that it's condemning and censuring the Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York and Rashid Tlaib of Michigan, Ilhan Omar of Minnesota. And the reason it's done is for defending foreign terrorist organizations and inciting anti-Semitic attacks across the United States. At the ACLJ, we're dealing with a lot of students, Jewish students on college campuses, and professors too, for that matter, that are being targeted because of their support for Israel or because they're Jewish. And what we're concerned about, and I'm so glad you've got this resolution in, is that this type of language encourages and incites that activity.
Well, that's right. We've seen attacks on Jewish Americans across the country just in the last few months. I don't think that's any coincidence when you have members of Congress with their national platform making these kinds of comparisons. And you and I know, I've been to Israel. I've seen the bunkers that are in almost every Israeli's home that have to be in their bus stops and their schools because Hamas is launching rockets into their cities to deliberately cause civilian casualties. And what's more, they're doing it from behind their own civilians and behind their own people, launching from schoolyards, buildings with journalists in it. Look, I've been shot at by terrorists hiding behind women and children. And the restraint that we showed, the restraint that the Israelis show, I think speaks to the democracy that they are and the absolute animals that these terrorists are.
I know you've experienced that in your career, and Jordan and I have experienced incoming rockets in our legal work in defense of Israel and actually defending Palestinian Christians, trying to get them out of Gaza and the control of Hamas. And it was during Operation Cast Lead, and we were there while those rockets were coming in.
Yeah, that's right. And Congressman, you are the first Green Beret to serve in Congress. And Omar wants you and your colleagues in the military to be subject to the International Criminal Court. That is how she is kind of casting this new, her new doubling down, is that, well, this is all about really justice and bringing forward, U.S. service members before the International Criminal Court. It's something we fought at the ACLJ, this idea
at the ICC,
of at the ICC, but also the idea of ever giving jurisdiction to the ICC. This would put people like you in jeopardy around the world, because if this court could arrest you, and of course we have a military justice system in our country that is more than sufficient.
Well, that's absolutely right. And we all know that the ICC has been repeatedly used by a number of groups around the world to try to go after U.S. service members, right? That's longstanding, and that's why the United States has never bought into it. But, if Omar and the rest of the squad, who, by the way, I've renamed the Hamas Caucus, were serious about helping the Palestinian people, how about helping us remove Hamas, who took over Gaza, by force, How about we help get aid actually to the people rather than being diverted by the corrupt government in the Palestinians? How about we work with us so that they're not taught that terrorism is okay in Palestinian schools? There's a lot of things that we could do to actually help the Palestinian people if they were serious about it. But propping up a terrorist government with their terrorist activities and then trying to put them on the same level as the United States of America and, frankly, the Israeli government that, as we know, have Arabs, Jews, people of all stripes in their parliament, in their Knesset, it's just, again, it's sad, it's despicable, and we're going to call it out.
Our colleague Andy Economou, senior counsel for the ACLJ, has a question for you.
Congressman Waltz, I'm a Florida native too, although I've defected to Georgia, but I want to say that I've looked at your record in the Army and the military, and it is impressive, and thank you so much for your service. And because you have been worldwide in what you have done, I want to ask you, what is the danger of having someone like Ilhan Omar as a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee? What message does that send?
Well, it's twofold. Number one, this is a war of ideas. This is a war against extremism. You know, I say it's relatively easy to bomb a tank. It's very difficult to bomb an idea. That's why I have children on the front of my book, Warrior Diplomat, because it's their hearts and minds that we are seeking to eventually win over and to not be radicalized. And so when you have a member of the United States Congress espousing this nonsense, it actually works against America in this war of idea and our local allies around the world in Afghanistan, the Kurds, and others. But number two, more practically, is our foreign arms sales, our foreign military sales and foreign military financing passes through that committee for approval. That's exactly where the arms packages go for Israel, our support to Israel, and to so many others, and she's a voting member of that committee. And that is incredibly disturbing to me, and I hope when we win the majority back, we remove her from the committee.
Well, Congressman, thank you for joining us. This is Congressman Waltz from Florida, who's the first Green Beret to serve in Congress. He authored that resolution. So, Congressman Mike Waltz, it was a pleasure to have you on the broadcast. Great to have your insight. Thank you for your service to the country and for speaking out on this, not being afraid to take on Ilhan Omar, and as you said, the Hamas caucus